So it remained so for quite some time during the early years of my life here in the US. So adjusting to life here, pressures at work, homesickness, demands of early years of marriage, and the death of my mom, who was my primary emotional support, led to my downward spiral to a paralyzing depression. So this was in 2012, 6 years after my arrival in the US. So I needed her comforting presence and wise words at that time. I tried to recall, our conversations. Stories of her struggles always ended with God, as her ultimate source of strength and hope. She would constantly point me to Mary for intercession. So in my desperation at that time, so I turned to Mary. So later, I came upon an email from my parish inviting me to a total consecration to Jesus through Mary. So I then recalled the phone conversation I had with my mom. So as we talked about difficult family problems at that time, she said, I have consecrated myself to Jesus through Mary. Not knowing what to make of it, I simply said, uh-huh. And then she continued, I have also consecrated each one of you, my children, the same way, and called out the name of each one of you, as I did so. So I kept silent because I did not know what it meant. And I wasn't really interested at that time, but it comforted me. The idea comforted me. So now that I came upon an invitation with consecration, I immediately went for it. So this was 7 years ago. So I had my first consecration on March 25, 2014, the feast of the Annunciation. So it was life-changing. There was an overflowing abundance of infused grace. So it felt like I was effortlessly and gently lifted up off the dark pit I found myself into, up to the wide, clear blue skies. So I was soaring in an instant. Yet the circumstances around me did not change. So there was a lot to share in this profound experience I've had, but I will focus on the one which God used to help me to stay on track in this spiritual metanoia. So the first time I had the consecration retreat, I learned about the 10 virtues of our Blessed Mother. I was invited to choose one of her virtues and asked her to help me to imitate it. So I chose purity because I have struggled with the conflict of artificial contraception used to avoid pregnancy for years. So chastity in marriage is practiced when the sexual act is used for both physical union and to have children. So when avoiding pregnancy, abstinence is called for during the woman's fertile phase. But I often give in to the temptation of artificial contraception. So I have taken concrete steps at that time to use natural family planning instead, but to no avail. So limited information on its use, my lack of resolve, and my inability to convince my husband to agree to it, were among the barriers. So I once told my husband during one of our conversations, why don't we try NFP? It does not cost a cent. It's healthy, it's natural, and they say it's effective. So we only need to learn it. And he replied, how sure are you that it's effective? I don't think it's effective. It's the end of conversation. So not knowing how my prayer is going to be answered, I still ask Our Lady to fix it. And she immediately answered my prayer. She fueled my resolve to do it, and I let go of my husband's concerns and offered him up to Our Lady instead. So in the meantime, I signed up for an online course to start, believing God will figure something out for us. So a series of events in the next 5 months led to my husband agreeing to use NFP. How the Lord and Our Lady led him to agree is another story in itself. So the benefits of NFP in our marriage were way over what we expected. Since avoiding pregnancy was our primary reason for its use, so we surprisingly found out that it was only a secondary effect. The primary impact was the deepening of intimacy and respect between us as a couple. So we were like newlyweds in the first year of NFP. So the joy and harmony between us was such a blessed blessing in our marriage. So I consider this blessing a signal grace from our Blessed Mother So much so because Our Lady's response to my plea was very swift, and the effects of it were very compelling. So my confidence in Our Lady soared. So the depression lifted, peace came back, but the struggle in the spiritual journey continues on. So I will always be a work in progress until I meet God and Our Lady face to face. In the meantime, I ask our Lord to help me take things one step at a time with Him ahead of me, leading the way, and Our Lady by my side, comforting and guiding me. Sharing my story with you all and hearing other stories, their faith journey story, is one way God uses to help support me. So thank you for journeying with me and listening to my story. And may God be